Occupation of Hsiu discussed. The man who proposed the plan spoken of in the last chapter was Chang, who belonged to Iku and held the small office of Pichia, or supernumerary charioteer. His appearance was grotesque. He had a broad forehead, protuberant at the temples like a countryman's hoe, and a pointed head. His nose was flat and his teeth protruded. He was a dwarf in stature, but had a deep voice like a great bell. "What proposal have you to offer that may avert this danger?" "My proposal is that we gain the support of Tsao. As we know, he has made a clean sweep of the empire. Lu Pu went first and both the Yuans followed, all exterminated. Lately he has destroyed Ma Xiao. In short, he is the one man against whom no one can stand. Therefore, my lord, prepare me worthy gifts to take to the capital, and I will get Tsao to march an army against Hansheng, which will keep this Chang Lu occupied so that we shall be left alone." This met Liu Chang's views, and so he prepared gold and pearls and rich stuffs, worthy presents for the man of power. And when these were ready, he appointed Chang his emissary. Chang in the meantime occupied his leisure in secretly copying maps and plans of the West Country. When all was ready, he started with a small escort. They heard this in Qingqiu, and Ke Youngming sent a trusty person to the capital to keep him informed as to all the doings. Chang arrived in Hsiu, and after he had established himself in his lodging, he made daily visits to the minister's palace to try to obtain an interview. But his last success had filled Tsao with insufferable pride, and he did nothing but give banquets. He never appeared except for the most important affairs, and even carried on the business of the state in his own residence. So Chang waited many days. But when he got to know the persons who were nearest the minister, he bribed them and obtained an audience. Tsao was seated in the high place, and after his visitor had finished his salutations, he said, "Your master Liu Chang has sent no tribute for several years. Why?" "Because the roads are dangerous and thieves and robbers infest them. Intercourse is restricted." Tsao interrupted in a loud, harsh voice, "What thieves and robbers are there when I have cleansed the country? How can you say the land is tranquil when one sees Sun Chuan in the south, Chang Lu in the north, Liu Pei in the west, and every one of these with armies reckoned in legions? The weakest of them has half a score." The mean appearance of the emissary had prejudiced Tsao from the outset, and when he heard these blunt words, he suddenly shook out his sleeves, rose, and left the hall. Those in attendance were annoyed with Chang and said, "How can you behave so rudely when you come on a mission? Your whole attitude was blunt and discourteous. Happily for you, our Lord remembered you had come from afar and did not take open notice of your fault. The best thing for you is to go home again as quickly as you can." But Chang smiled. "We have no plausible flatterers and glib talkers in our Western country," said he. At this, one from below the steps called out, "So you call us plausible and glib then, and you have none such in your country, eh?" Chang looked around and saw the speaker was a man with thin, delicate eyebrows crossing narrow eyes set in a pale, spiritual face. He asked his name. It was Yang Hsiu, a son of Yang Pio. The young man was then employed in the commissariat of the minister. He was deeply read and had the reputation of being a clever controversialist, as Chang knew. So on one side was a desire to confound, and on the other overweening pride in his own ability, with contempt for other scholars. Perceiving the ridicule in Chang speech, Yang Hsiu invited him to go to the library where they could talk more freely. There, after they had got settled in their respective places, Yang Hsiu began to talk about the West Country. "Your roads are precipitous and wearisome," said Yang. "But at our Lord's command we travel, even through fire and water. We never decline," replied Chang. What sort of a country is this Hsiu? Hsiu is a name for the group of districts known of old as Iku. The roads are intersected by streams, and the land bristles with steep mountains. The circuit is over 200 marches, and the area 30,000 square li. The population is dense, villages being so close that the crowing of cocks in one waken the people in the next, and the dogs barking in this excite the curs in that. The soil is rich and well cultivated, and droughts or famines are equally unknown. Prosperity is general, and the music of pipes and strings can always be heard. The produce of the fields is piled mountain high. There is no place its equal. But what of the people? Our administrators are talented as Hsiangju Suma Hsiangju, our soldiers able as Fu Po Ma Yuan. Our physicians are expert as Chang. Our diviners are profound as Chun Piying, Yen Tsun. Our schools of philosophy and our culture stand forth as models, and we have more remarkable men than I can enumerate. How should I ever finish the tale of them? And how many such as you, sir, do you think there are at the orders of your governor? Our officers are all geniuses, wise, bold, loyal, righteous, and magnanimous. As for poor simpletons like me, they are counted by hundreds. There are cartloads of them, bushels of them. No one could count them. What office may you hold then? Chang Sung replied, mine can hardly be called an office. I am a supernumerary charioteer. But sir, what state affairs may you control? I am an accountant in the palace of the minister, replied Yang. They say that members of your family held office for many generations, and I do not understand why you are not in court service, actually assisting the emperor, instead of filling the post of a mere clerk in a private palace. Yang Hsiu's face suffused with shame at this rebuke, but he mastered himself and replied, though I am among the minor officials, yet my duties are of great importance, and I am gaining experience under the Prime Minister's guidance. I hold the office for the sake of the training. Chang Sung smiled. If what I have heard is true, Tsao's learning throws no gleaming light on the way of Confucius or Mencius, nor does his military skill illumine the art of Sun or Wu. He seems to understand the doctrine of brute force, and holding on to what advantages he can seize, but I see not how he can give you any valuable training or enlighten your understanding. Ah, sir, that comes of dwelling in out-of-the-way parts. How could you know of the magnificent talents of the great minister? But I will show you something. He called up an attendant and bade him bring a book from a certain case. He showed this to his guest, who read the title, The New Book of Brewitt-Taylor. Then he opened it and read it through from the beginning, the whole 13 chapters. They all dealt with the art of war. What do you take this to be? Asked Chang Sung when he had finished. This is the great minister's discussion of the art of ancient and modern war composed on the model of Sun's treatise. You may be disdainful of the minister's talents, but will this not go down to posterity? This book, every child in Hsiu knows this by heart. What do you mean by calling it a new book? It was written by some obscure person of the time of the Warring States Chu dynasty, about 320 B.C., and Tsao has plagiarized it. But he has deceived no one but you, sir. But what is the use of your sarcastic insult in saying that your school children know the book by rote? It has never been given to the world, although copies have been made. It belongs to his private library. Do you disbelieve me? Why, I know it and could repeat it. Then he repeated the whole book, word for word, from beginning to end. You remember it like this after only one reading. Really, you are marvelous. He boasted not a handsome face, nor was his body blessed with grace. His words streamed like a waterfall. He read a book and knew it all. Hsiu's glories could he well rehearse. His lore embraced the universe. Or text or note of scholiast once read, his memory held fast. At leave-taking, Yang Hsiu said, Remain a while in your lodgings till I can petition our minister to give you another interview." Chang Sung thanked him and left. By and by Yang Hsiu went to see Tsao on the matter of receiving the emissary from the west and said, "Sir, why did you formerly treat Chang Sung so offhand? He spoke very rudely, that is why. But you bore with my Herng, why not with this man? My Herng's reputation for scholarship stood highest of all, and I could not bear to put him to death. But what ability has this Chang? To say nothing about his speech being like the river of heaven, nothing daunts his talent for dialectic. I happened to show him your new treatise. He read it over once and could repeat it. From this it is evident he is cultured and has a prodigious memory. There are few like him in the world. But he said the book was the work of an obscure person of a few hundred years back, and every schoolboy in his country knew it. It only shows that the ancients and I are in secret sympathy," replied Tsao. "However, he ordered the book to be torn up and burned. Then may I bring him to see you, sir, that he may see the glory of our court?" Tsao grudgingly consented, saying, "I am reviewing troops tomorrow on the western parade ground. You may bring him there and let him see what my army looks like. He will be able to talk about it when he goes home. When I have dealt with the south, I shall take the west in hand." Hence the very next day Yang Hsiu took Chang Sung over to the west parade ground, where a review of the Tiger Guard was to be held. There were 5 legions of them, and when drawn up in order, they made a very brave show with their gleaming helmets and bright new uniforms. Their drums rolled to shake the heavens and their weapons glittered in the sun. Their discipline and order were perfect. Their gay banners fluttered in the breeze. They looked ready to fly even, so alert and smart were they. Chang Sung glanced at them contemptuously. After a long time Tsao called up Chang Sung and, pointing to his army, said, "Have you ever seen such fine bold fellows in your country? We never see this military parade in Hsiu. We govern men by righteousness." Tsao changed color and looked hard at the bold speaker, who gazed back at him without the least sign of fear. Yang Hsiu shot a quick glance at him, but Tsao went on, "I regard the rat class of the world. There is a pun here. The characters for rat and Hsiu are read the same as of no more importance than so many weeds, and for my army to reach a place is to overcome it, to give battle is to conquer, to besiege is to take. Those who are with me live, but those who oppose me die. Do you understand? O minister, I know well that when you march out your army you always conquer. I knew it when you attacked Lu Pu at Piaying, and when you fought Chang Hsiu at Wancheng, and when you met Chu Yu at the Red Wall, and when Hua Young encountered Quan Yu, and on that day when you cut off your beard and threw away your robe at the pass, and when you hid in a boat to escape the arrows on the Wai River. On all these occasions, no one could stand against you." It made Tsao very angry to be thus twitted with his misfortunes, and he said, "You stuck-up pedant! How dare you thus bring up all my failures?" He called to his attendants to eject the bold disputant and put him to death. Yang Hsiu ventured to argue with him, saying, "You may behead him, but he came from Hsiu bearing tribute, and his death would have a very evil effect on all distant peoples." But Tsao was too angry to be reasonable and persisted. However, Hsiu also remonstrated and Chang Sung was not put to death, but he was beaten and ejected. He returned to his lodging and left the city that night, reflecting upon what he had intended and what he had accomplished. Thought he, "I did not expect such arrogance when I came with the intention of giving him a province. When I get back Liu Chang will expect great things. Now I am returning empty-handed and a failure to endure the laughter of my fellow countrymen. I will not go back. I have heard of the virtues of Liu Pei, and I will go to him and see what manner of man he is. Then I can decide what to do." So with his little escort and following he made for Qingqiu. He had reached the boundaries of Yingqiu Wucheng when he met a troop of horsemen, at the head of whom rode a captain in simple undress, who pulled up, saying, "Surely you are the charioteer Chang." "I am he," said Chang Sung. The captain quickly dismounted and humbly said, "I have expected you these many days. I am Ko Yoon." Chang Sung dismounted and returned the salutation, saying, "Then you are no other than Ko Tzu Lung, of Ca Changshan." "No other," was the reply. "And my lord Liu Yuantair bade me await you here and offer you refreshment after your long and toilsome journey." At this some soldiers brought forward wine and food, which they offered kneeling. Chang Sung said, "I am come because the world says Liu Pei is liberal and kindly disposed." After a few cups of wine, the two retook the road toward Qingqiu, which they neared next day at evening. They went to the guest house. Here they found a large number of men who received the visitor with the beating of drums and every sign of respect. And the officer in command, bowing low, said, "My brother sent me to meet you after your long and dusty journey and prepare the guest house for your reception. My name is Quan." So Chang Sung and Ko Yoon dismounted and entered the rest house, where hosts and guests exchanged formal salutations and took their seats. In a short time refreshments were served, and both men were most diligent in their attention to the traveler. This roadside banquet was prolonged to the time of setting the watch, when they prepared for rest. Next morning, after the early meal, they mounted and continued their journey. Very soon they met Yuantair himself, with an escort and his two chief advisors, deferentially standing by the roadside. As soon as he recognized them, Chang Sung dismounted and walked toward them. Yuantair received him with extreme respect. "Your exalted name has been long known to me," said Yuantair. "It has reverberated through my ears. My one regret is that cloudy hills and long distances have hitherto prevented me from enjoying the advantage of your instruction. Hearing that you were passing through, I have come to meet you, and if you would be willing to notice me and condescend to rest for a time in my desolate city, thus allowing me to satisfy my long disappointed desire to see you, I should indeed hold myself fortunate." Naturally the traveler's vanity was tickled, and he joyfully remounted. They rode bridle to bridle into the city. When they reached the residence again, they exchanged profound salutations and compliments before they took their various places as host and guest. And then a banquet was served. But all throughout Yuantair refrained from saying a word about Hsiu. He only chatted on general and common things. The visitor noted this steady avoidance, and resolved to probe his host's thoughts. "How many districts are there in Qingqiu, where you are now, O imperial uncle?" K. Ungming replied, "Qingqiu is only ours temporarily. We have borrowed it from Wu. They are always sending messengers to demand its return. However, now that our lord has married the daughter, his position is more secure. But it is still temporary." "Wu is large," said Chang Sung, "yet their 6 districts and their 81 departments do not satisfy them. The people are strong and the land is fruitful." Said Piang Tiong, "Our lord, being of the dynastic family, certainly cannot merely occupy 2 districts. Those others, thievish as they are, may indeed seize upon as much territory as they are strong enough to hold, but such deeds are not according to the wise man's heart. Noble sirs, pray say no more. What virtue have I that I should expect anything from the future?" said Liu Pei. "Not so indeed," said Chang Sung. "Illustrious sir, you are of the lineage of Han. Your noble character is widely known. No one could say that your fate excludes all thought of occupying territory, where you might begin to set up authority and take an emperor's position." Yuantair deprecated such a suggestion. "Sir, you go too far, this really is too much." The next 3 days were spent in banquets and wine parties, but all the time no mention was made of the western province. And when, at the end of that time, Chang Sung took leave, his host was at the 10-Lai rest house to bid him farewell and offer refreshment. When the moment came for the parting, Liu Pei raised his wine cup and said, "I am sincerely grateful that you deigned to come here. You have prolonged your visit to 3 days, but now the moment of parting has come. Who knows when I may have the privilege of receiving your instructions again." As he said this, the tears flowed, but he hid them while Chang Sung, willing to believe that this emotion was on his account, thought how wonderfully kind and noble his host must be to be thus affected. Quite overcome, he decided to speak about Hsiu. So he said, "I have thought that I too would come to you one day, but so far I have found no way. I see Sun Hsiu on the east, always ready to pounce. I see Tsao on the north, greedy to swallow. So this is not a wholly desirable place for you to remain in." "I know this but too well," said Liu Pei, "but I have no secure place to go to. Iku is well protected, has much fertile soil, is populous and well governed. Its scholars are attracted by your virtue. If you marched your armies westward, you could easily become a real power there and restore the glory of the Han's. But how dare I attempt this? The ruler is also of the imperial house. The whole province is devoted to him for his good deeds, and no other man could attain such a hold." "I am no traitor," said Chang Sung, "but in your presence I feel constrained to be perfectly open and plain. Liu, the prefect of Iku, is naturally weak and can neither use the wise nor employ the capable. Then again, Chang Lu threatens the north. People are distracted and would gladly welcome an appreciative ruler. The journey I have just made was to propose to support Tsao and place the province under him, but I found him rebellious and set on evil, proud and arrogant. So I have turned aside to you. If you will take Hsiu, you will have a base from which to deal with Hansheng when you will, and the whole country beside. You will continue the rightful line and your name will live in history. Would not that be real fame? If then you think of taking our country, I am willing to do what little I can as an ally within. But do you contemplate such a step? I am deeply grateful that you think so well of me. But the prefect being a member of the family, I should lay myself open to general execration were I to attack him. When a hero finds himself in the world, his duty is to work out his destiny, to exert himself and perform his task as best as he can, to press forward among the foremost. At the moment the position is that, if you fail to seize this opportunity, some other will take possession and you will regret when too late. And I have heard much of the difficult nature of the country, its many high mountains and numerous streams, and its narrow roads. How could such a country be invaded?" Then Chang Sung drew the map from his sleeve. "I am so deeply affected by your virtue that I offer you this map of the country, whereby its roads and rivers may be known." Yuan unrolled the map. It was covered with notes on the lie of the land, lengths and widths and such matters. Strategical points on rivers and hills were shown, and storehouses and granaries and treasuries. Everything was plainly stated. Chang Sung went on, "Sir, you can prepare your plans promptly. I have 2 friends who will certainly help you, and when they come to see you, you may be perfectly frank with them. Their names are Fa Chang and Meng Ta." Yuan thanked him with joined hands. Said he, "As the blue mountains grow not old and the green waters always remain, so shall I never forget. And when I shall have accomplished my task, you shall have no mean reward. I look for no reward. Having met with an enlightened lord, I felt compelled to unbosom myself to him." Chang Sung left soon after, and Kuan Yu escorted him for a long distance. After arrival in Iku, Chang Sung lost no time in sending for his friends, Fa Chang and Meng Ta. The former was the first to come, and he was told of Tsao's arrogance and haughtiness toward men of parts. As for the man himself, said he is a man to grieve with but not a man to rejoice with. I have promised Iku to Liu Pei, the imperial uncle, and I want your especial advice and assistance. I think Liu Chang incapable, said Fa Chang, and I have felt drawn to Liu Pei for some time past, so we are in sympathy here. Shortly after Meng Ta arrived, Meng Ta and Fa Chang were fellow townsmen. When Meng Ta entered the room and saw the other two in earnest and secret conversation, he said, I know what you two are about. You are scheming to hand over Iku to somebody. It is really so, you have guessed right, said Chang Sung. But to whom ought it to go? There is but one Liu Pei, said Meng Ta. All three clapped their hands and laughed. Then said Fa Chang to Chang Sung, you will see our lord tomorrow, what about that? I shall recommend that you two be sent to Qingqiu on a mission. They thought that a suitable scheme. And when the lately arrived messenger saw his master and was asked how he had fared, Chang Sung said, Tsao is a rebel who desires to get the whole country into his hands. I need hardly tell you that. But he also hankers after this district. Then what will become of us? Said Liu Chang. I have a plan to check both our enemies. Liu, the imperial uncle now in Qingqiu, is a relative of yours, and he is generous and well-disposed. This is a matter of common knowledge. Tsao was simply overwhelmed at the result of the battle at Red Wall, and Chang Lu more so. Now my plan is that you ally yourself with your distinguished relative against Tsao and Chang Lu. I have been thinking thus for a long time. Can you recommend a suitable emissary? The only ones are Fa Chang and Meng Ta. These two were summoned, and meanwhile, a letter was prepared. Fa Chang was to proceed as emissary to open up friendly relations, and Meng Ta would follow in due course with an army to welcome Liu Pei into the West Country. While still discussing the details of the policy, a person forced his way in, his face all running with sweat, and cried out, My lord, your land will be lost to you and passed to another if you listen to Chang Sung. Chang Sung turned a startled look on the intruder, who was a certain Huang Hsiu of Hsiu, an accountant in the prefect's palace. The prefect said, Why do you use such language? Yuan Ter is of my family, and so I am seeking his support. Said Huang Hsiu, I know all about him. He is liberal-minded to gain people to his side, and his softness can overcome the hardest. He is bolder than any other. He gains men's hearts from afar off, and those near him look up to him. He also has the wisest advisers and the boldest warriors. But if you call him here as a soldier, think you that he will be content to remain in a lowly condition? And if you treat him as an honored guest, can a state stand two rulers? Hear me, my lord, and you stand secure as Mount Ti. Be deaf to my words, and your position is as precarious as a pile of eggs. This Chang Sung has lately come home through Qingqiu, where he has certainly been plotting with Liu Pei. Slay this man, and make an end of Liu Pei. That will be for the happiness of this land. But how else am I to fend off my two enemies? Fortify your country, dig out your moats and raise your ramparts. Then you can wait on events. If these rebels invade this land, the position will be critical, as when fire singes one's eyebrows. It is idle talk to tell me to wait on events. No notice was taken of Huang Hsiu, and Fa Chang was about to set out when another interfered, crying, No, no. This was a secretary, Wang Lei. With bowed head Wang Lei stood and said, My lord will bring misfortune upon himself if he listens to this Chang Sung. Not so. I make an alliance with Liu Yuanter in order to withstand Chang Lu. A Chang Lu invasion would be but a skin disease. Liu Pei's entry into this country would be a mortal malady. Liu Pei is an unscrupulous bravo. He was once in Tsao's service and plotted against him. Then he hung on to Sun Hsiu and seized Qingqiu. This shows his character and his designs. Think you that you two can dwell together? If you invite him, then Hsiu is lost. No more wild talk, cried Liu Chang angrily. Yuan Ter is of my clan and family and will not ravish me of my possessions. He bade the lictors escort both men outside and ordered Fa Chang to set out. So he did, and before long came to Qingqiu. When the salutations were over, he presented his letter, which Yuan Ter opened and read. I, Liu Chang, a younger brother of our family, now write to General Liu Yuan Ter. From my humble place long have I gazed in your direction, but the roads of Hsiu are precipitous, and I have failed to send my tribute. This is to my shame. The victims of misfortune aid each other, and those in trouble support each other. If friends act thus, how much more should members of the same family? Now Chang Lu is mustering an army of invasion on my northern frontier, much to the injury of my tranquility. Wherefore I send this letter that you may know of my distress. And if you remember the kindly bonds of family and will play a brotherly part and lead your armies to destroy these ruffians, you will be my eternal protector, and I shall be ever grateful. This letter leaves much unsaid, but I await your coming. This letter greatly pleased Yuan Ter. He made a banquet for the bearer thereof, and when they had mellowed themselves with wine, he dismissed the attendants and spoke to Fa Chang in confidence. Friend, I have long admired you, and Chang Sung extolled your virtues. I shall always feel grateful for this opportunity of hearing you. Fa Chang bowed. That is too great praise for a humble emissary from Hsiu, but they say that horses always neighed in recognition of Po Lo, the supreme judge of horses, and when a man has found his lord he dies for him. Have you thought further of Chang Sung's proposals, General? I have always been a wanderer, often in suffering and sorrow. I have often thought of the wren, for even that tiny bird has a twig to rest on, and of the cunning hare that secures safety with 3 openings to its burrow. Does not a man need at least a shelter? Your land of Hsiu is fertile and a temptation, but its ruler is of my family, and I cannot plot against him. Yes, Iku is a very paradise, but without a ruler it cannot exist. Liu Chang knows not how to use the wise man, and his heritage must speedily pass to another. Today it is offered to your hands, and you must not miss the opportunity. You know the saying, that the leader in the hunt gets the quarry. If you will only consent, I will serve you to the death. Yuan Ter signified his gratitude. Said he, let me reflect for a time and take advice. The banquet terminated and the guest left. Keung-ming conducted Fa Chang to his lodging while his master sat thinking. Then Piang Tiong said, you must decide. Not to decide is foolish. You are of high intelligence, my lord, and why do you hesitate? What should my reply be? Asked Yuan Ter. You know these surroundings, and with them you cannot attain your ends. Now before you lies a populous, fertile, and rich land, a base with the greatest possibilities. You have the promise of assistance from 2 men within, and it seems like a gift of Providence. Why hesitate? Now there are 2 men in the world as mutually antagonistic as fire and water. My opposite is Tsao. He is impetuous and I am long-suffering. He is cruel and I am humane. He feigns while I am true. In all particulars I act the direct contrary to him. I refuse to risk the loss of the confidence and trust of the world for a trifling advantage. Piang Tiong smiled at these sentiments. My lord's words are quite in accord with abstract rectitude, but such ideas scarcely suit the days of rebellion. There are other ways of fighting than with warlike weapons, but to adhere too obstinately to the idea of abstract rectitude is to do nothing. One must be an opportunist, annex the weak and attack the willfully deluded, seize the recalcitrant and protect the docile. These were the teachings of Tiang and Wu. If after the settlement you reward with righteousness and make of the land a great country, will you be guilty of a breach of trust? Remember, if you do not take it now, another will. Yuan Ter, a prey to confused emotions, replied, These words are as jewels. They should be engraven on my very heart. Thereupon, he summoned Keungming to settle the details of an army to march west. Keungming said, This is an important place and must be well defended. Liu Pei replied, I, Piang Tiong, and my two captains Huang Cheng and Wai Yin will go into Hsiu. You and our three best captains, my two brothers and Ko Zhu Lung, can defend Qingchu. Guan Yu was told off for Xiangyang and the narrow pass of Xingni. Chang Fei went along the river and Ko Yun camped at Chiangling. For the march westward, Huang Cheng led the van. Wai Yin had the rear guard, while Yuan Ter moved in the center. Piang Tiong was commander of the whole army. Just as the 5 legions were starting, there came Luo Hua to surrender. He and his men were attached to Guan Yu. It was in the winter that the expedition started. Soon they met the force under Meng Ta, 5 companies, to act as escort into Iku. Liu Pei informed Liu Chang that he had started, and the latter sent orders to the districts along the road to entertain them well on the march. The prefect proposed to go out in person to welcome Liu Pei and ordered carriages to be prepared and tents and banners. All the escort were dressed in glittering armor. At this, the accountant, Huang Hsiu, the sturdy opponent of the invitation to Liu Pei, again remonstrated. My lord, if you go out you will be exposed to danger. I have been in your service for many years, and I would prevent you from being the victim of another's wiles. I pray you reflect. Chang Sung said, His words are those of one who would sow discord in a family and encourage the power of the robbers who threaten you. Assuredly such action is to your detriment. Liu Chang then spoke angrily to Huang Hsiu, saying, I have decided, and why do you oppose me? The objector bowed his head and wept. Then approaching nearer, he seized hold of the prefect's robe with his teeth to hinder him. Liu Chang angrily shook his robe and rose from his seat, but Huang Hsiu still held on till 2 of his teeth fell out. Then the lictors forced him away and he retired, still crying. As Liu Chang was starting, another man cried, My lord, do you neglect the loyal words of your faithful Huang Hsiu to go to your death? And he threw himself prostrate at the steps in remonstrance. He was one, Lai Kei of Chiening. The prince may have ministers who remonstrate with him, and the father may have sons who oppose, said he. Huang Hsiu has spoken faithfully, and you ought to listen. To let Liu Pei into this land is to welcome the tiger into your gates. Yuan Ter is my brother and will not harm me, said the prefect, and any other who shall oppose me shall suffer death. So Lai Kei was thrust out. The officers of Hsiu regard the safety of their families and no longer render you service. The captains are arrogant, and each has some scheme of his own to further. If you do not get Liu Pei to oppose the enemy without, and your own people oppose you within, surely you are on the road to ruin. So spoke Chang Sung, and the prefect replied that he knew the plan was for his advantage. Whereupon he mounted his horse to ride out to Elm Tree Bridge. Then it was reported to him that Wang Lei had suspended himself, head downwards, at the city gate. In one hand he held a written remonstrance and in the other a knife. and he says that if you heed him not he will cut the rope and die at your feet," concluded the messenger. Liu Chang went to the gate, took the writing and read. "Good medicine is bitter in the mouth but good for the disease. Faithful words offend the ear but are good for the conduct. Of old the king of Hsiu listened not to Hsiu Yuan, but attended the meeting at Wuquan and was captured. Sir, you are thoughtlessly leaving your place to go to welcome Liu Pei, but I fear there is a way out and none in. Could you but behead Chang Sung in the marketplace and have nothing to do with this league with Liu Pei, it would be for the happiness of old and young, and assure the safety of yourself." Anger rose in his breast as he read. "Why do you insult me when I go to meet a kindly man? I feel as if I were about to enjoy the delight of seeing a brother." At this Wang Lei gave a great cry, severed the rope and fell to the ground battered and dead. Head downwards at the city gate one hung, a last remonstrance in his outstretched hand, resolved that, were his words rejected, he would not survive defeat. Sincere was he who, desperate, held to Liu Chang's silken robe until his broken teeth released their grip. Sincere indeed, but how can he compare with stern Wang Lei, who went to awful death? Liu Chang with a great company went out to welcome his clansmen, and there followed many wagons laden with supplies and rich stuffs. Liu Pei's advanced guard had arrived at Hsiu. During the march the people had brought presents, and Liu Pei had given an order to pay for everything, under penalty of death for disobedience. Thus no one suffered, and the people came out in trusting crowds to watch the soldiers marching by and welcome them in every way. Liu Pei soothed them with very gracious words. Then Fa Chang secretly showed Piang Tiang a letter from Chang Sung advocating the assassination of Liu Chang near the place of welcome. Piang Tiang said, "Say nothing about this. After the two Lias have met there may be opportunities, but this is too early to talk. Any plot would leak out." So nothing was said. Fouqiang, where the meeting was to take place, is 360 li from Changtu. Liu Chang arrived first and sent messengers to welcome Liu Pei. The two armies camped on the bank of the Fu River. Liu Pei went into the city to see the prefect, and they met cordially as brothers should. Both shed a few tears, and by they began a heart-to-heart talk. Then followed a banquet, and after this each returned to his own camp. The prefect said, "How ridiculous have been proved the fears of Huang Hsiu and Wang Lei. They do not understand the force of family affection. I see he is really a kindly and noble man, and with him as a support I shall fear neither Tsao nor Chang. And I owe all this to Chang Sung." To show his gratitude, he took off the green silken robe he wore, and sent it as a gift to Chang Sung, together with 500 liang of gold. However, some of his officers were not so content, and a group of them bade him beware. "Do not rejoice too soon, O master," said they, "for Liu Pei is hard enough within in spite of his mild exterior. You have not sounded him yet and should be on your guard." "You are all too anxious," said he, laughing. "My brother is no double dealer, I am sure." When Liu Pei had returned to his own tent, Piang Tiang came in to ask what impression he had of his host of that day. "He seems a very honest man," said Liu Pei. "He is good enough, but some of his servants are discontented at this turn of affairs, and I would not guarantee there will be no murders. If you took my advice, you would have Liu Chang assassinated at the return banquet. 100 ruffians behind the arras, a signal from you, and the deed would be accomplished. All that would be needed then would be a rush on the capital. No sword need be drawn, no arrow fitted to the string. He is a brother of my house and has treated me with sincerity. I am a newcomer and so far unknown in this land. Such a deed would be abhorrent to all the world, and these people would resent it. I will not establish myself by such means. The scheme is not mine. It originated in a private letter from Chang Sung, who says it will have to be done sometime. At this moment Chang came in and said, "This is not for ourselves, it is the will of heaven. Liu Chang and I are of the same house, and I would shudder at harming him." "Sir, you are wrong. If you act not as we propose, then Chang Lu will take Hsiu in revenge for the death of his mother. What is there for you at the end of your long march? Advance, and success is yours. Retreat, and you have nothing. And delays are most dangerous. At any moment this scheme may leak out and another will reap the profit. This is the day when heaven smiles on you. Act before Liu Chang suspects you. Establish yourself." So urged Chang, and Piang Tiong backed it. Their lord, by argument, they tried from rectitude to turn aside. What Liu Pei hid in his heart will be explained in the next chapter. End of Volume I. Notes: 1750 B.C. 280 B.C. 3. The grass in the meadow is an ingenious quip on Tung Cho's surname, as is the 10 days on his distinguishing name. 4. Modern Anshui. 5. The Great Bear in Vega. 6. The Milky Way. 7. A star in Taurus. 8. Groups of stars, similar to the Great Bear constellation. 9. Points of the compass, including the center. 10. The country about modern Kiangsu and South Shantung. 11. An editor here remarks in a note, "With 100 ounces of silver Liu and could get himself another wife, but I am afraid no one would marry him. And what then? No woman could help reflecting that she might have to serve as the game course in a chance visitor's dinner." 1299 A.D. 13. Modern Kiangsi. 14. A Chang is 10 feet. Asterisk. End of the Project Gutenberg ebook Senkyuo, or Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Volume 1 of 2, asterisk. Updated editions will replace the previous one. The old editions will be renamed. Creating the works from print editions not protected by U.S. copyright law means that no one owns a United States copyright in these works, so the Foundation and you can copy and distribute it in the United States without permission and without paying copyright royalties. Special rules, set forth in the general terms of use part of this license, apply to copying and distributing Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works to protect the Project Gutenberg trademark concept and trademark. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark and may not be used if you charge for an e-book, except by following the terms of the trademark license, including paying royalties for use of the Project Gutenberg trademark. If you do not charge anything for copies of this e-book, complying with the trademark license is very easy. You may use this e-book for nearly any purpose, such as creation of derivative works, reports, performances, and research. Project Gutenberg e-books may be modified and printed and given away. You may do practically anything in the United States with e-books not protected by U.S. copyright law. Redistribution is subject to the trademark license, especially commercial redistribution. Start full license. The full Project Gutenberg trademark license. Please read this before you distribute or use this work. To protect the Project Gutenberg trademark mission of promoting the free distribution of electronic works by using or distributing this work, or any other work associated in any way with the phrase Project Gutenberg, you agree to comply with all the terms of the full Project Gutenberg license available with this file or online at www.gutenberg.org/license. Section 1. General Terms of Use and Redistributing Project Gutenberg Electronic Works. 1a. By reading or using any part of this Project Gutenberg electronic work, you indicate that you have read, understand, agree to, and accept all the terms of this license and intellectual property, trademark/copyright, agreement. If you do not agree to abide by all the terms of this agreement, you must cease using and return or destroy all copies of Project Gutenberg electronic works in your possession. If you paid a fee for obtaining a copy of or access to a Project Gutenberg electronic work, and you do not agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement, you may obtain a refund from the person or entity to whom you paid the fee as set forth in paragraph 1. E. 8. 1b. Project Gutenberg is a registered trademark. It may only be used on or associated in any way with an electronic work by people who agree to be bound by the terms of this agreement. There are a few things that you can do with most Project Gutenberg electronic works even without complying with the full terms of this agreement. See paragraph 1. See below. There are a lot of things you can do with Project Gutenberg electronic works if you follow the terms of this agreement and help preserve free future access to Project Gutenberg electronic works. See paragraph 1. E below. 1c. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the Foundation, or PGLAF, owns a compilation copyright in the collection of Project Gutenberg electronic works. Nearly all the individual works in the collection are in the public domain in the United States. If an individual work is unprotected by copyright law in the United States, and you are located in the United States, we do not claim a right to prevent you from copying, distributing, performing, displaying, or creating derivative works based on the work as long as all references to Project Gutenberg are removed. Of course, we hope that you will support the Project Gutenberg mission of promoting free access to electronic works by freely sharing Project Gutenberg works, in compliance with the terms of this agreement for keeping the Project Gutenberg name associated with the work. You can easily comply with the terms of this agreement by keeping this work in the same format with its attached full Project Gutenberg license when you share it without charge with others. 1d. The copyright laws of the place where you are located also govern what you can do with this work. Copyright laws in most countries are in a constant state of change. If you are outside the United States, check the laws of your country in addition to the terms of this agreement before downloading, copying, displaying, performing, distributing, or creating derivative works based on this work or any other Project Gutenberg work. The Foundation makes no representations concerning the copyright status of any work in any country other than the United States. 1e. Unless you have removed all references to Project Gutenberg. 1e1. The following sentence with active links to, or other immediate access to, the full Project Gutenberg license must appear prominently whenever any copy of a Project Gutenberg work, any work on which the phrase Project Gutenberg appears or with which the phrase Project Gutenberg is associated, is accessed, displayed, performed, viewed, copied, or distributed. This e-book is for the use of anyone anywhere in the United States and most other parts of the world at no cost, and with almost no restrictions whatsoever. You may copy it, give it away, or reuse it under the terms of the Project Gutenberg trademark license included with this e-book or online at www.gutenberg.org. If you are not located in the United States, you will have to check the laws of the country where you are located before using this e-book. 1e2. If an individual Project Gutenberg electronic work is derived from texts not protected by U.S. copyright law, does not contain a notice indicating that it is posted with permission of the copyright holder, the work can be copied and distributed to anyone in the United States without paying any fees or charges. If you are redistributing or providing access to a work with the phrase Project Gutenberg associated with or appearing on the work, you must comply either with the requirements of paragraphs 1e1 through 1e7 or obtain permission for the use of the work and the Project Gutenberg trademark as set forth in paragraphs 1e8 or 1e9. 1e3. If an individual Project Gutenberg electronic work is posted with the permission of the copyright holder, your use and distribution must comply with both paragraphs 1e, 1 through 1e, 7, and any additional terms imposed by the copyright holder. Additional terms will be linked to the Project Gutenberg license for all works posted with the permission of the copyright holder found at the beginning of this work. 1e. 4. Do not unlink or detach or remove the full Project Gutenberg license terms from this work, or any files containing a part of this work or any other work associated with Project Gutenberg. 1e. 5. Do not copy, display, perform, distribute, or redistribute this electronic work, or any part of this electronic work, without prominently displaying the sentence set forth in paragraph 1e. 1 with active links or immediate access to the full terms of the Project Gutenberg license. 1e6. You may convert to and distribute this work in any binary, compressed, marked up, non-proprietary or proprietary form, including any word processing or hypertext form. However, if you provide access to or distribute copies of a Project Gutenberg work in a format other than plain vanilla ASCII, or other format used in the official version posted on the official Project Gutenberg website, www.gutenberg.org, you must, at no additional cost, fee, or expense to the user, provide a copy, a means of exporting a copy, or a means of obtaining a copy upon request, of the work in its original plain vanilla ASCII, or other form. Any alternate format must include the full Project Gutenberg license as specified in paragraph 1e. 1e7. Do not charge a fee for access to, viewing, displaying, performing, copying, or distributing any Project Gutenberg works unless you comply with paragraph 1e8 or 1e9. 1e8. You may charge a reasonable fee for copies of, or providing access to, or distributing Project Gutenberg electronic works provided that you pay a royalty fee of 20% of the gross profits you derive from the use of Project Gutenberg works calculated using the method you already use to calculate your applicable taxes. The fee is owed to the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, but he has agreed to donate royalties under this paragraph to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Royalty payments must be paid within 60 days following each date on which you prepare, or are legally required to prepare, your periodic tax returns. Royalty payments should be clearly marked as such and sent to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation at the address specified in Section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. You provide a full refund of any money paid by a user who notifies you in writing or by email within 30 days of receipt that he does not agree to the terms of the full Project Gutenberg trademark license. You must require such a user to return or destroy all copies of the works possessed in a physical medium and discontinue all use of and all access to other copies of Project Gutenberg trademark works. You provide, in accordance with paragraph 1f(3), a full refund of any money paid for a work or a replacement copy if a defect in the electronic work is discovered and reported to you within 90 days of receipt of the work. You comply with all other terms of this agreement for free distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark works. 1e9. If you wish to charge a fee or distribute a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work or group of works on different terms than are set forth in this agreement, you must obtain permission in writing from the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the manager of the Project Gutenberg trademark. Contact the foundation as set forth in Section 3 below. 1f. 1f. 1. Project Gutenberg volunteers and employees expend considerable effort to identify, do copyright research on, transcribe and proofread works not protected by U.S. copyright law in creating the Project Gutenberg trademark collection. Despite these efforts, Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, and the medium on which they may be stored may contain defects, such as, but not limited to, incomplete, inaccurate or corrupt data, transcription errors, a copyright or other intellectual property infringement, a defective or damaged disk or other medium, a computer virus, or computer codes that damage or cannot be read by your equipment. 1F. 2. Limited warranty, disclaimer of damages except for the right of replacement or refund, described in paragraph 1. F. 3. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, the owner of the Project Gutenberg trademark, and any other party distributing a Project Gutenberg trademark electronic work under this agreement, disclaim all liability to you for damages, costs, and expenses, including legal fees. You agree that you have no remedies for negligence, strict liability, breach of warranty, or breach of contract except those provided in paragraph 1. F3. You agree that the foundation, the trademark owner, and any distributor under this agreement will not be liable to you for actual, direct, indirect, consequential, punitive, or incidental damages, even if you give notice of the possibility of such damage. 1F. 3. Limited right of replacement or refund if you discover a defect in this electronic work within 90 days of receiving it. You can receive a refund of the money, if any, you paid for it by sending a written explanation to the person you received the work from. If you received the work on a physical medium, you must return the medium with your written explanation. The person or entity that provided you with the defective work may elect to provide a replacement copy in lieu of a refund. If you received the work electronically, the person or entity providing it to you may choose to give you a second opportunity to receive the work electronically in lieu of a refund. If the second copy is also defective, you may demand a refund in writing without further opportunities to fix the problem. 1F. 4. Except for the limited right of replacement or refund set forth in paragraph 1. F. 3. This work is provided to you as is, with no other warranties of any kind, express or implied, including but not limited to warranties of merchantability or fitness for any purpose. 1F. 5. Some states do not allow disclaimers of certain implied warranties or the exclusion or limitation of certain types of damages. If any disclaimer or limitation set forth in this agreement violates the law of the state applicable to this agreement, the agreement shall be interpreted to make the maximum disclaimer or limitation permitted by the applicable state law. The invalidity or unenforceability of any provision of this agreement shall not void the remaining provisions. 1F. 6. Indemnity. You agree to indemnify and hold the foundation, the trademark owner, any agent or employee of the foundation, anyone providing copies of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works in accordance with this agreement, and any volunteers associated with the production, promotion, and distribution of Project Gutenberg trademark electronic works, harmless from all liability, costs, and expenses, including legal fees, that arise directly or indirectly from any of the following which you do or cause to occur. A. Distribution of this or any Project Gutenberg work. B. Alteration, modification, or additions or deletions to any Project Gutenberg work. And C. Any defect you cause. Section 2. Information about the mission of Project Gutenberg. Project Gutenberg is synonymous with the free distribution of electronic works in formats readable by the widest variety of computers, including obsolete, old, middle-aged, and new computers. It exists because of the efforts of hundreds of volunteers and donations from people in all walks of life. Volunteers and financial support to provide volunteers with the assistance they need are critical to reaching Project Gutenberg's goals and ensuring that the Project Gutenberg collection will remain freely available for generations to come. In 2001, the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation was created to provide a secure and permanent future for Project Gutenberg and future generations. To learn more about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation and how your efforts and donations can help, see Sections 3 and 4 and the Foundation information page at www.gutenberg.org. Section 3. Information about the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. The Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation is a nonprofit 501(c)(3) educational corporation organized under the laws of the state of Mississippi and granted tax-exempt status by the Internal Revenue Service. The Foundation's EIN, or Federal Tax Identification Number, is 64-6,221,541. Contributions to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation are tax-deductible to the full extent permitted by U.S. federal laws and your state's laws. The Foundation's business office is located at 41 Watchung Plaza #516, Montclair NJ 07042, USA, +1 862 621-9288. Email contact links and up-to-date contact information can be found at the Foundation's website and official page at www.gutenberg.org/contact. Section 4. Information about donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation. Project Gutenberg trademark depends upon and cannot survive without widespread public support and donations to carry out its mission of increasing the number of public domain and licensed works that can be freely distributed in machine-readable form accessible by the widest array of equipment, including outdated equipment. Many small donations, $1 to $5,000, are particularly important to maintaining tax-exempt status with the IRS. The Foundation is committed to complying with the laws regulating charities and charitable donations in all 50 states of the United States. Compliance requirements are not uniform, and it takes a considerable effort, much paperwork, and many fees to meet and keep up with these requirements. We do not solicit donations in locations where we have not received written confirmation of compliance. To send donations or determine the status of compliance for any particular state, visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. While we cannot and do not solicit contributions from states where we have not met the solicitation requirements, we know of no prohibition against accepting unsolicited donations from donors in such states who approach us with offers to donate. International donations are gratefully accepted, but we cannot make any statements concerning tax treatment of donations received from outside the United States. U.S. laws alone swamp our small staff. Please check the Project Gutenberg web pages for current donation methods and addresses. Donations are accepted in a number of other ways, including checks, online payments, and credit card donations. To donate, please visit www.gutenberg.org/donate. Section 5. General information about Project Gutenberg electronic works. Professor Michael S. Hart was the originator of the Project Gutenberg concept of a library of electronic works that could be freely shared with anyone. For 40 years, he produced and distributed Project Gutenberg e-books with only a loose network of volunteer support. Project Gutenberg e-books are often created from several printed editions, all of which are confirmed as not protected by copyright in the U.S., unless a copyright notice is included. Thus, We do not necessarily keep e-books in compliance with any particular paper edition. Most people start at our website, which has the main PG search facility, www.gutenberg.org. This website includes information about Project Gutenberg, including how to make donations to the Project Gutenberg Literary Archive Foundation, how to help produce our new e-books, and how to subscribe to our email newsletter to hear about new e-books.